What's going on, guys? Rockley AC here, bringing you guys a spicy deck profile fresh out of a first place prelim victory. Last night was Gamers World Chicago Season 2 regional invites, and I managed to go undefeated with the Set 7 Son Goku leader, red-green Kaio-Kan't deck. This deck came to mind last week when we had our local pre-release event, and I was frustrated to go up against my buddy's Son Goku leader because he has a live negate every single turn. That, in combination of me pulling 3 SR Kaio-Kens, made me want to break this deck. And I tried it with Son Gohan Burst 2 leader effect, but my drop zone did not fill up as fast as when I thought about Son Goku lead. So I took this deck and ended up playing against Chile and Limo, Pan, and Broly Green BR. So here's a caveat for warning. We only had 5 players at this event, so take my results with a grain of salt. Even though I went undefeated, I had a few games for my locals and a couple practice hands, so this deck can definitely be improved on, and there are certainly other cards you can replace with my choices, which I will talk about after the profile. Now that I lost half my viewers mentioning that, no, I think this is a great deck and has a high ceiling potential, especially with this broken card. But yeah, let's just get into the deck. So again, Set 7 released officially on Friday, August 2nd, Bandai's 7th set, and this just came out, and I decided to go ahead with the Son Goku leader. So he is a green leader, and let's take a look at him real quick. Once this focuses, when this card attacks a leader, draw a card. So very basic, does nothing else. On Awaken, when your life is at 4 or less, you may draw 1 card, then choose up to 1 of your energy and switch this to active mode and flip this over. So on his Awakened side is where he gets a little bit better. You see the classic Dragon Ball Z Kaio-Ken Son Goku training complete. This says you can't send cards from my energy or from my drop area to my warp. When this card attacks, draw a card, and Auto Burst 7, you must place the top 7 cards of your deck of your drop area to activate the skill. When your opponent attacks with the card, negate this attack, then negate the skill for the duration of the turn. So it's basically like a live negate every single turn. As you can see, because you can't really technically overwhelm, I mean, that'd be a busted, effect, being able to mill 7 and then, scientist food every single turn. But also, it keeps it checks and balances and everything with all that. And the Burst 7 again is optional. You don't have to use it, but if you do use it, you must place the top 7 cards. Also activate main once per turn. When your life is at 1, choose all your opponent's battle cards with blocker and KO them. There were a couple games where I totally ignored that effect because it's just there's so much going on. But if your opponent's playing a lot of blockers, maybe against Zamasu or those free blockers, and you choose all of them and get to KO it. So very solid effect, nothing too crazy, but the Burst 7 is what makes this deck pretty much abuse these super rare. So let's go ahead with the deck profile. So for my negates, I run 4 Shocking Death Balls. Basically this is your main negate, has sparking. This is no stranger to the meta. It's a negate, pops a 2 or less, and that's also really relevant because against vanilla Ku decks, against a lot of, I think the new veggies, the U6 veggies use a lot of 1 and 2 drops. There's certain stuff that has barrier or you can't KO it, I think cauliflower or kale, but other than that you could pop those mini drops, so that's very important. Next I run one of the other new cards. This is one of the new negates. It is called For the Greater Good. Let's take a look at this one real quick. Apologies for my camera not being focused. If your leader card is green, negate the attack, then choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards with an energy cost of 1 and KO it. So more KOing permanent. If this card is in drop area, you can activate it by paying its energy cost and removing it and 1 green card from your hand from the game. So I think all the colors got some type of graveyard negate effect, which is really cool. It shows Bandai's effort into making a variety of interactions with counterplay and counterattacks now being able to use from multiple zones. This is really cool, and this does help. And as a heads up, if you want to know how to beat against the Kaio-Ken deck, run some of these cards, because when you're tapped out, or if your opponent rips cards out of your hand. If you have one of these cards in your drop zone, you could activate it. So it really throws people off, especially the Kaio-Ken deck. So little tips here and there. And then when you activate this card, you can't activate for the greater good for the duration of the turn. So it's nice. It could be a negate, and then you could use it again later. If you burst or happen to have this card in the drop zone, then you could activate it. I am thinking about bumping this up to 2, depending on my ratios, but that's totally up to you guys. And again, you guys could totally switch up the ratios and card counts. Next are the super combos. Best super combo in the game. Paragus, draw 2, warp 1. Sometimes they'll be milled out because of the negate effect, but I mean, you have a lot of ways to put cards back. Mainly specific this card. Sorrowful Strike Tien Shinhan, sorry. This is one of the new cards that also came out from the set that has multiples of these in every color. Shoutouts to Bandai again for making sure you have cards for every color that does certain effects. So yeah, this is one of the new cards. Let's take a look at this guy too. Let's focus on him. He is one of the new cards out of set 7. When you combo with this card and your leader card is green, you may choose one card from your hand, place it in the drop area, and choose one of these effects. First effect, choose up to 3 battle cards with an energy cost of 3 or more and a power of 35k or less in your drop area and place them at the bottom of your deck in any order. They're very specific. Bandai does test because, you know, most super combos are 2 drops, and then a lot of SCRs are like 40k and above, so they were smart about that one, so you don't have to, so you can't like put stuff back if it gets milled out and everything. So very, very cool. And also the other effect is choose one battle card in your opponent's drop area, return it to your opponent's deck, then your opponent shuffles the deck. So this effect is extremely techy. I like this card a lot, or I like this effect a lot. I haven't played against any decks where I really used it, but against wish leaders, especially like Trader Dende or Shenron decks that need certain cards from the drop zone, like the Frieza 4-drop, or like the Vegeta at all costs. You can put that stuff back in the drop, and then they can't like world piece it out, or they can't use it with their effects. So it's really annoying to go against. It's super techy. Also the top effects great if certain cards get milled, like your Kaio-Ken cards or Zen-Oh or something that you really need to be shuffling back. And it's not really an anti-mill card. I wouldn't say like this card alone will help boost up the matchup against Mill. Mill's still a very tough matchup, and I think Tien does way more than what these cards, the Tien put in deck card effects do. So, I mean, it's a great card. I'd probably cut it down to 2, maybe even 1, but it was just there as a safety net in case like my Kaio-Kens get shuffled in. I used it once, so if anything, there's that. But, up to you guys. Definitely, I think you should test it. Now, one of the best cards, I think, in this set, especially in this deck, especially for green, is the new counterplay, Vegeta the Cruel. So I'm sure a lot of you guys experience this card in the in your local pre-release. But basically, it's a new counterplay. Again, Bandai helped multiple colors get new counterplay stuff. So play this card. If there's a multicolor card in your energy, reduce the energy cost of this card by your hand by 1. So it's pretty much like a 2 cost. When you play this card, your opponent's during your opponent's turn, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards with energy cost of 4 or less and KO it. Then your opponent chooses one card in their hand and sends it to the warp. So this card is amazing, especially when you don't self-awaken your, if you don't attack your leaders and they're staying on the unawakened side and they're not really getting card advantage. Being able to pop like, a 3-drop or 4-drop, kill their tempo turn, it's just so strong. Like I was able to pop certain cards. So this is a counterplay effect, and the auto still trigger when your opponent plays a card. But then, they're going to be KO'd and stuff as long as they don't have barrier. So it's not like Preemptive Strike where it technically doesn't even hit the battlefield. Preemptive Strike still gets over barriers, stuff like that. But Vegeta the Cruel, he'll be able to still pop stuff and get rid of threats. So like I've done like a foreseeing hit. They were still able to get 2 cards on my hand, but I still prevented like a double striker. So it's a great card. Using it back to back really hurts your opponent because they're warping out 1, 2 cards, stuff that they need out of their hand, and it's just a strong play, like just for 2, and it becomes a 15k body. So you're killing cards, and then if they have more stuff on the field, you can put pressure on your opponent. So first couple turns you're not really dropping too much, or like the 2-3 slots kind of open for depending on the matchup. If you want to use a counterplay on one of their big guys, it's a solid move. Onto the rest of the battle cards, I run one Newfound Power Son Gohan. I know it's weird as a one-of, but I'm already running a lot of one-ofs in this deck, so helps you self-awaken. There's no really true self-awakener in this deck, like for green, so I rely on my opponent for attacking, and if not, I run other cards too, but not a lot. So this helps as a nice backup to self-awaken. One of the other main self-awakeners are 4 Intensifying Power Trunks. Of course, everybody knows this. It does a lot of pressure. It really helped me against the green Broly matchup because I actually opened up with Trunks and Gohan, and I did put some pressure on my opponent so he doesn't get too much card advantage. But I mean, depending on the matchup, right, it's really good. I also main board the chain attack combo, so there's a couple targets in here, some being the obvious choices of things. So chain attack Trunks, just for evolving for 2 red, is very easy to do, and what I like about this deck is that there's a couple different lines of play. There's a couple engines that I run. So I run, of course, Chain Zen-Oh. In this deck, I think 2 is perfect if you are going to run Chain Zen-Oh variant for Son Goku. I still think Zen-Oh is one of the strongest cards in the game, and being able to reset stuff like against like Shenron Gogeta, against Vanilla Ku, decks that gain so much advantage, or even like a wide board. Like Zen-Oh's just like the perfect answer for everything. And in this deck, you could afford to Zen-Oh because your Awakened side, you'll always have a negate. So if they drop like a big bomb, you can negate it and usually survive. So Zen-Oh's a nice backup for like the reset button. You know, it's just your typical play if things go south. And with Zen-Oh, you only want to run 2 because you want to make sure you get your drop zone full of red or green cards. So it's important to not like really have them in the drop. You could also shuffle them back in with like Tien and things, so you could like filter your drop zone. But I mean, it's there for obvious reasons. Next, I run the Krillin package. So you got the Krillin from the anniversary box. So the Krillin Kill Son Goku deck. If your leader card is green Son Goku, and it's flipped on his back, increase this card's energy cost by 3 in all areas, and it gains blocker. And then when you play this card, draw a card. So first couple turns, you're not really doing much. You know, you're charging maybe a multicolor energy. Next turn, maybe dropping Krillin and maybe like a Trunks or something like that. But Krillin draws a card, and then when you're awakened, he becomes a 4-cost blocker, and it triggers the final Showdown Son Goku. So this is an engine that I've run in the past, also that I ran in my Vanilla Ku at Celebrations. The green version, it's very cool because it just catches people off guard. It forces them to make certain plays that they don't want to because they know their battle card could get popped. So they try to play around this, or they're very aggressive in trying to kill Krillin, which, you know, that's going to happen anyways. It's a 1-cost, so it's very easy to remove through like Crisis Crusher or just like easy like overall removal. But if you're able to have Krillin survive to the Awakened turn, your opponent's just going to be forced to, you know, have one of their battle cards killed. And this deck is all about like maintaining board removal, like hardcore. So even if your opponent has barrier stuff, like it's not guaranteed to stay there because Final Showdown kills barrier cards. So super strong. I also put in 2 persistent Assault Krillin. This is my personal tech. I could chain attack him in. And on your 4-drop, you're not really playing too much. You have this card and Foreseeing Hit, because you want to stall them for 1 more turn so that you could go in for your 5-drop kill. But Persistent Assault Krillin forces your opponent, it's like a Deadly Offender, so it forces your opponent to focus the attack on him, and then again, like, it makes it so like, it forces your opponent to think like, oh, I have the final Showdown Son Goku. If I pop Krillin, then, you know, my battle card's gonna get popped too as well. So it's great against like the High to Mastery matchup. If that survives, you know, you could pop the barrier path to greatness and things like that. So it's a nice little tech. Again, I never really used it. I think I used it to chain attack into it once and just force my opponent to attack certain ways. But, you know, it's a fun little engine. I like it because you might as well run it since it's Son Goku leader. Next, I ran 2 Bodyguard Logic. I've been seeing this card pop up a lot lately, especially in like red decks. Son Gohan leader. It's a great card. This deck's kind of like, it depends. If your opponent's also like a mirror match, like red-green, you know, you could expect your field to also be pretty scarce. So Bodyguard Logic's there as like a nice backup against like super aggro. But most of the time, I've had like 1 or 2 battle cards, so it wasn't really like, you know, that impactful. even still, like, you want your opponent to attack you so you could awaken early, so you could use those negates and fill up your drop zone for the Kaio-Ken. So I mean, I could probably see it cut to 1. I'd probably replace it with other cards too, so that's totally up to you. This is like literally my first time using Bodyguard Logic. I normally don't. Next, I tech in 1 SSB Vegeta, Energy of the Gods. He's a Sparking 3, which is very very easy to do in this deck. He's mostly there against veggies and what's it called, like early Vanilla Crew stuff. Just killing stuff up to 2. You know, you could KO it, so it becomes a one cost 15k. So just having stuff on the board for, you know, cheap. Never really played it, but I mean, it's a tech card for me. Next, I ran 3 Foreseeing Hit. He was my typical 4-drop play for the most of the time. You know, it depends on the situation, but you know, if I know that I'm going to have Kaio-Ken next turn, then I want to be able to get rid of my opponent's pieces and the finishers. So in that case, like if I know I could fill my drop zone for Kaio-Ken, then I will get rid of their pieces to push for game, because I'm going to be tapped out on turn 4, most likely with a Foreseeing Hit. Maybe I could awaken with 1 energy, but for the most part, you want to get rid of stuff that could kill you. And then depending, you know, if you may not have it, you get rid of like their super combos or whatever you need to, because once you drop Kaio-Ken, then you could get rid of their negates, so you don't have to worry too much about being so aggressive, knowing that, you know, you got their options out. So Foreseeing Hit, super strong, very powerful card. Next is some of the multicolored cards. Gogeta, he's always been a strong card, a rival for comboing a green and a red. You just tap a red and then he comes in play, pop a 4-drop. So again, more of the KOing stuff. This deck likes to KO and control the board. That's really what you're doing. You want to minimize as much damage as you can until you get to turn 5. Next is the 2 Friezas. Surprise attack Frieza, he's a critical, he comes in play. This helps a lot because it forces your opponent to take less cards. It's just your simple surprise attack that you've seen in many decks. Many people run 1, 2, 4 even, so I mean, this is up to you how many you want to run. I think 2 is fine, 2 is perfect. You have many ways to KO cards, so if you want to go crazy, you could run 4, because you're always going to pretty much use it up. So the main killer combo card, main card of this whole deck is Kaio-Ken Son Goku, Defender of Earth, because that's literally what he does. He defends your whole freaking life. It's amazing. Let's take a look at this card real quick. Beautiful card, by the way. Like, this is just so nice. So that's Deflect, so that's broken. Energy Exhaust, if you know he comes into any zones rested for energy. Permanent. If there are 20 more red or green cards in your drop area, reduce the energy cost card in your hand by 2. So every game is able to resolve that, barely. You want to make sure you count. This deck's a little tricky because you want to make sure you have the same amount of cards in your drop zone. I remember a couple days ago when I had locals, I had like 19 cards, and that was like rip. I was like, oh, well, that sucks. Had to wait another turn, and I wasn't able to Kaio-Ken that turn. But you got to make sure you're paying attention to your colors and your counts and everything, and kind of do some math in your head. Like I know it's weird to do some math in a card game, but sarcastic, by the way. You got to keep in mind how many times you can negate. Usually by turn 3 you're awakened, I would say, for most of the time, and then just being able to use his negate twice, you know, that's 14 cards in drop zone. You should have close to that. If you're comboing or if your opponent's killing your cards, you know, that you don't mind because you're filling up your drop zone. So you gotta be conscious about how many cards are in your drop zone, because by turn 5 you should have around 20. I would say 18, 22 on average for most of the games that I've played already, and you want to make sure you're counting those colors and stuff. But yeah, activate main. Let's take a look. Choose 1 card in your life, add it to your hand. Your opponent reveals their hand, you choose up to 1 card from it and place it in the drop area, and this card gains plus 25k for the duration of the turn. That's nasty. So you basically strip a card from their hand. It could be any card, it could be a battle card, extra card, negate, and they have to drop it, and it gets plus 25k. So usually you want to defend your life as much as you can, you know, 4 life. That's pretty much what I did most of the games. I think I've stayed at 3 to 4 life most of my matches. So you could use this multiple times a turn. Even if you use it 1 turn, it's still very strong. But you want to make sure you're able to at least resolve this twice so that you could get like unwanted cards out of their hand. If they have 2 negates or something like that, you know, then if they have 3, like GG, like that sucks. Like a mirror match would suck too. But you know, you want to make sure you count their drop zone too, because you want to make sure they don't have that new negate that can activate from the drop, because that would also suck too. Because you could just run into that. Sure, they might not be able to strip that from your hand, but you know, it's in your drop area and in their drop area, so they could also activate it. So you got to be careful with that too. So heads up on some pro plays there. So activate main, you could activate a couple times. The most I've activated this was 3 times, so 25 times 3 is 75k. You're swinging for 100k, triple strike, dual attack. Oh yeah, auto, when your life reaches at 1 for the duration of the turn, this card gains triple strike, dual attack, and it can be KO'd by your opponent's skill, so GG. One of my opponents was playing the green Broly deck, and he tried to KO Kaio-Ken, but he couldn't because of his auto. I was at 1 life. And you know, I was swinging for games, so most of the games was for triple strike. Most of my opponent kept themselves at 3, so I was able to go in triple strike twice. I think, yeah, most of the games I had 75k, and then 1 game I had 100k, and I mean, it's just, how do you out combo that? Like, you're gonna have to have like a strong hand. And the last card I have is actually the SCR SS3 Scramble. I know a lot of people have seen this lately. This card's been going up and down in the market value. Everybody's pulling this actually. It's the ultimate, so you can only have 1 of these per deck. Arrival, red green, so you pay 3 red and 2 green, and you gotta have like a red and green in the combo area. Energy Exhaust, auto, when you play this card, choose 1 card in your life, place it in the drop area, then deal 2 damage to your opponent. And also when your opponent combos with a battle card with an energy cost of 2 or less, choose up to 1 of the cards in your opponent's combo area and place it in the owner's drop area. So very powerful. I actually never got a chance to use this, mostly because depending on the game state, if your opponent's at 3 life, then it's much better to go for Kaio-Ken if you're able to. There were, I think, 2 times that I had both this and the Kaio-Ken card in my hand, and both of those times it just made sense to go for the triple attack. I mean, you're gonna burn 2 damage, so you're gonna, you know, what's the point if they're gonna have 3 life? So you really want to only play this on the kill turn when it's lethal at 2. But yeah, this card's also good. It's great as a backup. I think if you have this card, it's good to play Kaio-Ken at 3. But if you don't play this card, if you don't have this card, then play Kaio-Ken at 4, so you can see it all the time. But yeah, that's the main deck. We actually only had a best of 1, so rip for that. But you know, that will happen. I actually did prepare a sideboard for you guys, so some cards in here I think will actually be helpful when you guys are building this deck and things to think about. So let's go ahead with that real quick for the sideboard. So I run 3 preemptive strike. This is against like high to mastery, chain attack decks that like really try to ruin you and maybe have like really strong effects, and something that the Vegeta Cruel can't get over. So preemptive strike, I think it's a no-brainer. Gotta run that in the sideboard. Next, if we were playing best of 3, I think I think everybody should at least consider this if they're running some type of like green, because a lot of people in the first couple weeks are going to be playing new decks, and a lot of new decks have field cards. So you have Broly with Dormant Legend, you have Zamasu with the mass. I call it mass incarceration, but it's probably a good fit for that name. But whatever that 2-drop field card is. And then there's just like other random ones too. Like if your opponent's going to be playing, I don't know, OG Broly, Broly's Ring. That deck is also there, so you know, just things here or there. It's a good backup. Like for 2, you get to pop 1 and you know, really disrupt your opponent. So like if you're gonna go against like the Dormant Legend deck, like don't really attack them to give them life. Like make sure you have this in your hand and then pop it, because they're gonna be losing that. So you know, they're gonna be getting that Dormant Legend out for free, but you know, they're not gonna get any advantage out of it, because you're going to be popping it with Tactile Victory. So it's a great card. I also ran 2 Father-Son Kamehameha against things like Triple Strike if you're able to negate. Oh, by the way, Goku's negate ability goes over, what's it called? Triple Strike. Triple Flash, sorry. Triple Flash decks, because you can't use counter, but this effect is an auto. So this card, and I think like the Janemba card, Janemba Mill negate goes over Triple Flash. So I know Triple Flash is hype right now. There's a lot of GT versions going around. I had my own with Son Gohan, so that's another deck that you guys are gonna have to be watch out for. You're a Kaio-Ken. They're gonna triple flash you. You negate, and the next turn Father-Son Kamehameha. It's like rip. They're done. Crisis Crusher, because I didn't know what else to run. I do run a lot of cards that KO cards, so I don't know if this is necessary. But there are like a lot of decks that just are aggro too, so you don't want to be caught up with like in the crit game. Maybe like you're going against Broly and then they're playing like crit Trunks and stuff, so that's too much disadvantage. Next is the No Escape Son Goku. I think this deck, this card is also good. It's like a nice backup because there's a lot of cards right now that bounce stuff, especially with the new blue support that sends cards back to your hand. Like I think the new blue counterplay, I forgot that card, sorry, this is out of focus, but the new blue counterplay cards do that, where it bounces cards back to the hand. I don't know why it's not focusing right now. There you go. When you play this card, draw a card, and players cannot use non-keyword skills to return battle cards in the battle area due to their hands during their turn for the duration of the game. So I think the Zamasu leader also bounces stuff too as well. So things like that. I mean, Gogeta, Ramp. It's just something to consider. Mercenary Tao, I don't know why I played it, but I think I was maining it there mostly against like the OG Broly deck. That deck I think is scary to go against, especially with like hand discard. You don't build the strongest hand in this deck, like I think you're kind of average, like sitting at like 8 cards or something like that, but for the most part you don't want to have such a low hand where you're not able to play your counters and stuff. So I mean, it's just there as a backup. One Kami against decks that go wide, stuff like Vanilla Coup, Veggies, the new blue yellow Veggies, which is also something scary to go against, so things like that. And then I also have the Son Goku in close quarters, mostly against the High to Mastery, Path to Greatness. When you play this card or combo with this card, if there's a multicolor card in your energy, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards with a barrier and an energy cost of 3 or less, ignoring barrier and KO it. So you could chain attack this guy in also and pop their Path to Greatness, and it's like, you know, go all in. So I try to tech a lot for Path to Greatness stuff because I hate it, and I'm surprised it's still around. They should have banned it, but you know, they have their reasonings, and I'm just gonna keep moving on and making decks to try to counter it. But yeah, there's that's the main deck in the sideboard. There are a couple cards that obviously I think you guys could definitely argue for. I know there's cards that I took out that I just never really had enough time testing. One of them being the new Broly Super Rare. He's a 2-drop multicolor card. He's great because if there's another multicolor card, then he becomes basically untapped when you charge him. When you play this card, your opponent chooses 1 card from their hand, places it in the drop area, so it's a nice like hand control. I think it's a good turn 2 play. I just never really used it enough. I probably could take out like the Bodyguard Logics and maybe put 2 of those in. Another card that I also thought about was Mach Speed, but what I like about what I don't like about Mach Speed compared to Vegeta the Cruel is that Vegeta the Cruel could hit, I think, higher targets. Mach Speed gives your opponent's battle card minus 10k and then an additional 5k if it's your opponent's turn, so you could get rid of like a 15k, but you know, you can't hit those 4-drop 20ks. Whereas Vegeta the Cruel, it targets 4 cost or less, so it has a stronger target, and they also warp a card. This one's kind of lackluster, but I could see somebody playing like maybe 2 of or something like that as another counterplay besides Vegeta, but I think you have a lot of cards that can interact anyways in this deck. Like, again, you could even mainboard like Preemptor Strike maybe or something like that, mainboard like 2 of them and whatnot, but that is the main deck. Real quick, I want to show you guys what I got from my winnings. As you guys saw from the event page and stuff, Bandai allowed to give out the new tournament pack, or not the tournament pack, the event pack, so event pack 4. So winning first place got me 4 champion packs, also 5 event pack 4s, and I think 4 boosters of set 7, and then I also got another 4 packs of merit cards. So for $10, shout outs to Water Tower. I mean, I'm sure like they gave out like adequate pricing and everything, but I just plus super hard. So let's just go ahead with the newest cards from the event pack, and I want to show you guys these beautiful foils. So out of the 5 packs, I pulled 2 Paragus, so one of the new promos. Let's check them out real quick, and I'm gonna remove them out of the case and everything, but these are the new foiling patterns for the new event packs. So you get these from playing in tournaments, so join your locals. Look at that Splatoon type of artwork. It's pretty sick actually, kind of like retro style, but like really awesome. So you get to see a lot of the cards in these event packs are very playable. A lot of them are like super combos and just really high profile cards. So these are going to be worth, I think, a good amount, like maybe 10 bucks, 20 bucks. I don't know the market for these yet. These ones just came out, but they look super sick. I pulled World Peace. This card looks pretty trippy. I mean, not that I've done it or know anything about it, but if I was on acid, I'd probably feel like this too. Freaking double Roshi, double Krillin. I mean, that looks kind of weird, but yeah, it's just so dope. Like, look at these. Like, look at the pattern on this. I really like it. It's fun style. So you got full surveillance Jacko. He's a super combo. It just looks so cool. Like, I mean, I appreciate the artwork that Bandai does to these cards. I mean, it just makes the collecting so much more addicting, especially if you're like a foil whore like me. Sideline assist Bulma, that's awesome. I mean, that's another red super combo that I think a lot of people will like. So yeah, that was my 5 pulls from the event packs. And for the champ packs, dun, 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 got 1 of each. So pretty much, I mean, that was some pretty good shuffling there, I'd say. But of course, you got Vegeta the Time Regulator, the most expensive promo card right now for that. He is going for, I don't even know, 55 bucks or something like that. I can't remember, but he's definitely up there. And of course, you got the Gohan, Kaba, and Trunks. Mirror cards, I'm not sure how many people like them, but I mean, they're there. I'm not really too big on them, so if you guys like these, message me. We could probably work out a trade. And of course, I would pull a Kaio-Ken out of my booster packs. Broly also as well. Broly and the hits. So, yeah. I hope you guys like this. I know this is kind of a rush video. I kind of wanted to get this out to you guys because this just happened, and I wanted to give you guys some ideas coming into the new set. So this is a very fun deck. I know there's a lot of potential for this leader. There's a lot of things, a lot of ways that you could build them, I think. Especially with red, green, and all the tools that they got. So let me know if you guys are working on this, what cards you feel like would be better in here, what kind of engines you guys think will work well, because this is something that I've, you know, initially first drafted it just, you know, last week. So I want to definitely know your input and see what you guys think. Also, on my next deck profile, I'm not sure which one I'm going to be uploading, but you know, you guys can help me decide. But I am going to be deciding to upload between the new Zamasu deck, the ramp deck, or Son Gohan Veggies. So let me know in the comments section below what you guys want to see. I'm assuming people want to see this version of Veggies because not too many, I think, profiles out there. Zamasu is also fun too as well. So there's a lot of you know, advantages for both decks. I'll probably do both anyways, but we'll see how it goes. I am kind of lazy with deck profile, so I do apologize for that if you guys are expecting some content. You know, just support this channel. It's been growing, so I really appreciate a lot of you guys who've been supporting lately and dropping some support for my channel. So I'm just repeating myself. It's about 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm gonna get some sleep. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch you guys next time. Peace.